I'm going to say, if you're smart, you take those bad things that happen and you use them as a lesson and you make the change.
Ladies and gentlemen,
you are now about to witness
the journey that is the Lyfe Choyces podcast.
Yeah!
How do you keep open lines of communication with your children? And you have multiple,
So,
two.
yeah. So my son is 13, my daughter is 15. As far as like communication, I have to say at this point, we haven't come to like a crossroad of any serious topics. They are such good kids. I'm so blessed. When I say thank God every day, probably multiple times a day for them being in my life. And I feel like they're like a gift to me. Like, there's a lot of things in my life that haven't gone great, but they are just like it. That's it. That's where I feel like God was like, or I'm not like religious, but like spiritual, like whatever it is up there that was like, here you go. This is what you're going to be good at. And this is what's going to be good to you. It's them. But I think starting from when they're little, I mean, I've always just told them, and you can tell me anything. You can tell me anything. And more importantly, if you're in trouble for any reason, the only way that I can help you get out of trouble is if you tell me the truth. And I haven't had to, deal with them getting into trouble a lot, actually at all. But just like for a small like example, my son did something stupid. He plugged in, my son likes to take things apart and put them back together. And he found like this scooter in the dumpster, and I live in a townhouse, and he thought my next door neighbor's outlet was mine in like the backyard. And she came over to the house and she was like, she was like kind of freaking out. And he told me the truth. And I was like, that's all you needed to, like, that's fine. Like, you're good. We're good. This isn't a big deal. But I feel like a lot of kids would be scared about getting into trouble and then kind of fib. I mean, I'm sure they've definitely fibbed to me on more than a few occasions. But I think when it comes down to the important things, they do. My friend Tiffany, who has an older son, has this thing that I think I may implement into our family. It's what does she call it? The circle of trust. So basically, he's I think 17 now, and if something more serious comes, it's like the rule is we sit down, we talk. Anything that happens in here, you're not going to get in trouble for, within reason.
No killing somebody.
No killing someone. No like burning the school down or anything like that. But I feel like that's something that I might implement when the time comes. I haven't crossed that path yet where we really have to deal with tough topics, to be honest.
So you're very fortunate then at the ages that they're at that nothing massive has happened yet. I can definitely admit growing up, I was afraid of my father for sure.
Yeah, afraid of my mom.
And so therefore when I got in trouble, or something happened at school, I did lie, which is unfortunate because it caused more of a problem.
Same, 100%.
I even went as far as like I shoplifted when I was a very young person at a comic book store. Why, I don't know. I had the money in my pocket to pay for it, but I just felt like doing it. Yeah. So that night I kept probably 2 or 3 times in the night. I went downstairs. Okay, this is how old I am. I would unhook the phone jack from behind the phone so that the phone couldn't ring. Anyhow, eventually I didn't get in trouble for that one. But when I got older, my dad would always go to parent-teacher night. And I'd always get in trouble when he got home because I was not good at school. I didn't pay attention.
Same.
I was always doing something else.
Same.
And so eventually he took me and said, I'm tired of having to come home and have this conversation with you. You may as well be there to hear what the teacher has to say to you. Now, a lot of parents back in the 80s and 90s didn't do that, and all of a sudden, so some of the teachers are kind of offset because like, well, what's the kid doing here? It's parent-teacher night, not parent-kid teacher night. Right. But my dad explained to them, he's like, whatever you got to say to my kid, I've got to go yell at him for it when I get home. I don't want to waste my time doing that. So he's here so you can tell him face to face what the problem is so that we can see what we can do to fix it. Yeah. I've always said to myself or, the girlfriend I have now about bringing up our kids is I want to make sure, which is sounds like what you do, is I want to make sure my kids know that I got their back no matter what. Mm-hmm. And the only way I can do that is if they're telling me the truth. Right. If you get caught by the cops doing something, if your teacher gets mad at you for doing something, I need to know the truth about what happened, and I got you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? As long, again, it's not something like
Crazy.
absolutely crazy. I don't want to hear about, like, I would like to never have to deal with a child that steals from other people, harms other people on purpose, that kind of stuff. But still, I want there to be that open forum where they feel comfortable enough. Like, unfortunately, I didn't feel comfortable enough to go to my father, 17 and younger, with those kind of things.
Right.
It wasn't until it happened.
Well, I think maybe your dad did or didn't do it, but I think a lot of parents make the mistake of assuming that kids understand certain things. I mean, even from the simplest things, like I tell my kids every day, I tell them, they probably get sick of hearing, I know they get sick of hearing it. I'm like, you're my love, you're my life, you're my world, you're my everything. Like, you are my everything. And like, that reassures them. They know there is no doubt in those kids' minds that I love them to death. You know what I mean? And I talk about things like being kind and, like you mentioned, like doing, you don't want to hear it's to me, that's the most important things, like be kind, make sure you be kind. And I think a lot of parents just assume that their kids know that they can come and tell that, or that they can talk to them. And I'm very, very, I think it's very important to vocalize it. They can't read our minds.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go into questions that, if you don't want to answer, you don't want to answer. So your eldest is 15 years old. So 15 years ago, the gentleman who was, or
my ex-husband,
is the biological father.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were married.
Yes.
And so this is excellent for what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
When you find out that you're pregnant for the first time, it's obviously a shock.
Yeah.
Regardless if you're trying or not, it's like also now it's like official, like I'm having a child. We've had men discuss this about what it's like to become a father, which it really doesn't hit home for them usually until the child is there, until, bare skin to bare skin. Now this is my responsibility.
Yeah.
But for a mother, it's completely different, I imagine.
It's funny. I don't know because, like I always knew that I wanted to have kids, but I was never one of those people that saw a kid or someone else's kid and was like, oh, like my best friend, Serena, would be in the mall and see little babies and she'd be like, oh my God, the baby. And I'm like, what? Get that baby. Why are you touching that baby? Like this, like what? Like I was actually very nervous that I wouldn't have the motherly instinct. Definitely. I knew I wanted kids, but there was a big part of me that was, because I'm not that. I'm not mushy. Well, with my kids now I am, but I'm not a soft person. And the second, and even when I was pregnant, I still was not sure.
So that's kind of where I'm getting at. That moment that you realized, whether it was you kind of had an idea, period late, got a test done or went to the doctor or what have you, you get told, congratulations, you're going to be, it's official. You're going to be a mom.
Yeah.
What was that initial reaction?
I think just scared of not really being sure if I would know what to do because I wasn't around small children. I'm an only child. I didn't have any like younger siblings. Not really. My cousins lived far away. I was probably scared of that. I wouldn't be a good mom and I wouldn't know what to do when the time came.
And then 9 months later,
she came out of me. I had to have a C-section, emergency C-section. The second that she came out of me, I get like emotional talking about it, but the only way that I could describe it is if you think of the person, if you think of the person that you love most in this world, your girlfriend, your parents, your sibling, times it by a million. By a million. And like, that's how I felt. And then somehow, I don't know how, I just knew what to do. Like, I just knew what to do.
It was just
instinct,
that simple for you.
Instinct.
Yeah.
I mean, like, like, I don't know, like if it's just an instinctual thing, but it just became natural.
And that's what's so very interesting to me because men and women are so very different. And a man will never know the emotions.
Yeah.
We can empathize. We can say that we understand, but we can never know. And vice versa.
Yeah.
A woman can never know what it's like for a man to be a father. Like it's two completely opposite spectrum feelings. But that's why, because a lot of men that sit in that chair, I mean, and these are men that you wouldn't think like would be emotional or sensitive, but they literally, their faces light up and they tell me how they just became this
mush.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm not a soft person. When people try to hug me, I'm like, why are you hugging? Like, it's just like, I'm not a soft person. When it comes to them, I am complete mush. But side note, tough at the same time.
Right.
Like, you know, like
And
they know not to mess around with me either.
And this is something that I think has been lost with the ones who have had children after our generation, because again, we were parented differently. And I mean, I'm still going to parent the way my dad did. I've already had this conversation with my girlfriend. She understands where I'm coming from. She is younger than me. But her mom was also very much the way my parents were. So she understands it and she's okay with it. Also different country. She's Thai.
Right.
I'm moving to Thailand.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to be living there.
I think it's very important to have that discussion with her, that you guys are on the same page with parenting. Even though my ex-husband and I are no longer together, we are on the same page, and you have to show a united front. And they're probably,
because you guys are still co-parenting regardless.
Yeah.
So how do you create that environment with the children that they know both the love, but also the firmness of, I'm not going to take your shit?
My daughter has said to me multiple times, she says, like, you know, Mom, like, thank God, like, we haven't really had any issues, but I know with you, fuck around and find out.
So she knows that from your personality, from the way you interact.
I think, and people ask me all the time, like, what she's even asked me, like, why are we so good? And people ask me all the time. My friends joke about it. They're like, you don't even know what it's like to be a parent because your kids are so good. And I just want to say this, which is very important so far. Like, I know tomorrow my daughter could get in with the wrong crowd, meet some boy that could change everything. And then what I say means nothing. So very important that I say, so far, so good. But I was very strict with them when they were young. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, super strict.
As in what? Like an example?
I mean, just, you know, if I tell you to put the book there, the book goes there. If I tell you to throw out the garbage goes out. If I, you know, when we go into a restaurant, no cell phones, no iPads. You speak to the server with respect. May I please? You look them in the eye. You know, things like that. And being so regimented and strict and when they were young has paid off in spades, because I haven't had to discipline them.
As a young teenager or a mid-teenager, I
haven't had to discipline them at all. I mean, not too many people could say that for people with 13 and 15-year-old kids.
We grew up in a time we didn't have all this cell phone, iPad type stuff growing up, so we knew, because if we did something wrong, we got hit. That was just
I'm
normal.
Gonna say, if the time came and if my kids, I will do. I have not had to.
I've had that conversation with my girlfriend. I'm a strong believer that, you know, you get smacked if you did something wrong. Yeah. I'm not saying just for the heck of it, but if you do something wrong.
Listen, if I have to yank my daughter out of or son out of somewhere, I will yank them by the arm, but I haven't had to.
Right.
But they know that I will.
It just sucks that nowadays, like, someone else in that vicinity could cause a problem because you're choosing to parent your kid the way you want to parent your kid, which worked out for us.
That's a little bit of a blurry line. You know what I mean? I also feel like, I don't know, you know, yanking a kid by the arm is one thing, but like, actually, if I had to, it's hard to even think about because I've never had to. Yeah. But I don't know that I would do that in like a public place.
Right.
Yeah.
Where we're growing up, shopping mall, grocery store, there was no holds barred with us. Like, we just, like, if we acted out of line, like my brothers and I want to say very rarely in a public place, because we knew what happened at home when we did it. Yeah. So we didn't want that embarrassment. Like, as a young person, you're not really aware of your thought process, but you just knew that, like, I don't want to get smacked in public. Yeah. So I better not do that shit.
Yeah.
It's interesting because you have educated them in a way on how to be social.
Yes.
In a positive way.
Which is, it amazes me how many times, and I don't want to judge anybody else's parenting, but I mean, you know, we somehow made it through life without a phone and an iPad at the dinner table. I mean, to me, that's really important time. That, like, me and my kids, we laugh every dinner. There isn't a dinner that we've had that we're not laughing about something.
That's amazing.
I mean, like, it's just, we have a good time in my house.
I think a lot of people that are of Generation X or older than us, I've seen this a lot because I've done this, like, when I used to go up to Rhode Island every summer for boating. A a group of us would go out and we would all put our cell phones in the center of the table, and we had a
Yes.
game. Like if you pick up your phone
Yes,
before
I love that.
dessert, you're
Yeah.
paying the bill.
Yeah.
And there'd be like 6 or 7 of us
Yeah.
at a restaurant that we're having like lots of food.
Yeah.
You don't want to be paying the $500 bill.
No.
Like you leave your phone there.
I mean, have you ever gone out, forget about the kids, have you ever gone out to dinner with someone and they're like pulling out their phone, scrolling on Instagram? Don't tell me you do it.
No. What amuses me, one of the things that amuses me the most about the podcast is more times than not, the guest that I'm currently talking with brings something up that the guest and I previously episode were talking about as well. So do you know Lindsay, bouncer, used to be a bouncer at Roxy's. He does MMA fighting. He works at Monroe's now. Good looking, my height, short hair. He's got the elephant ears from the MMA fighting.
They all do.
Yeah,
That's how you
100%.
can always tell.
Tim and him are best friends.
I feel like I may know who you're talking about.
So he was sitting here and he literally made the same comment about when you meet up, because we're talking about friendships and how to build friendships. And he was talking about how, like, you know, the acquaintances that you know when you go into an establishment, you start talking to them and you're having a conversation with them and they start flipping with the phone. It's just like I don't even understand how that's like a thought process. I share the fact quite often that when I come back into town and I'm back here on the compound, when I'm with my buddies, you know, all of them, I tend to put my phone in my room when I first get home, because we usually reconvene all together and we kind of have like a little chit chat, maybe, you know, smoke a joint,
Catch
whatever.
up.
Yeah. And so I love my friends for who they are, not who I think they should be. So I don't expect them not to have their phone in their hand, but I make sure that I don't, so that if they ever see it, they know that I'm presently there for any conversation we might have. That's just how I am with the cell phones. The fact that you have taken the time to teach your children who are born in the 2000s, you know, that's a time that is supposed to be meant for conversation.
For sure.
That's clearly a good reason why you have a great relationship with them so far.
Yeah.
The idea of, hopefully, as a parent, you've had so many good conversations with them and they know who you are so well that if they got into the wrong crowd, they would be able to notice that it's the wrong crowd.
Yeah, I hope so.
That they wouldn't get what I call brainwashed by a person of the opposite sex or same sex, if that's what they're into.
Right.
But we have all done it. I know that I've gotten wrapped up in my life when I was like chasing girls, that like it didn't matter what my parents said, what she wanted to do. I'd definitely sneak out of the house, you know, get on my bicycle and fuck off for a while. Yeah. But hopefully they have that information that you've given them already, that they steer away from it, you know, and I'm sure they know they can adventure and you know, live, but come to you in times of need.
I mean, I hope that I've done that job. It seems like me and my ex-husband have done that job so far and creating that environment. But like I said, you never know.
So far, knock on wood, right? So being that 2025, single parenting is not unheard of, obviously. You are co-parenting with someone who I'm assuming, you know, you share time with the children.
50-50.
But at the same time, I look at it as like you are a single parent, because when you're at home, they're with you. That's the environment they see. They see one individual that's taking care of the bills, the house, their environment, their mental health, their physical health. What are some of the things that you would say make a good mom?
So I think, I mean, going back to kind of square one, I think I'm just as responsible for my own behavior to make my kid, like, I don't want to say like make my kids good or have good kids. It falls, in my opinion, just as much equally on me on being a good example. And I'm going to maybe say something that's like a little controversial and probably will get people upset, but you know, like I personally would never do something like OnlyFans or like be a stripper or be, you know, because I personally don't feel that that's a good example for my children, and trust me, they will find out.
Eventually, it's hard not to.
It'll come out, things like that. So, and you know, I know there's a lot of women that do that, and again, like I say, to each their own. I want to set a good example for my kids, like morally. They you know, they've never seen me intoxicated. One of the things that my daughter, I remember wrote, and I have a picture of it on it was a Mother's Day or Valentine's Day. it was a, like one of her homemade cards. And she said, it's all these wonderful things about me. But the thing that stuck out the most is how I treat everybody that I meet nicely. And again, going back to like, to me, the most important thing that I tell my kids all the time is be kind, be kind, be kind. And it's by example. You know what I mean? If they see me walking into a store or a restaurant or anywhere, that we're getting service and I'm not polite, then what do you think they're going to be when they go? You know what I mean? Like it's a by example type of thing.
We are absolutely a product of our environment.
Yeah.
And at a young age, until 17 or 18, your parents are your environment, because you spend, other than going to school, you pretty much spend most of your time at home with your family. Hopefully you do, because then you create these good habits. The thing that my father, like, our parents were different, obviously, as a generation before, multiple generations before us. They never took mine didn't take the time to sit down and say, hey, be kind to people. But again, you absorb things as a child. You are a sponge, and you notice how your parents are interacting with their friends, with their community, or if you go by their office, how their staff relate with them, or how their coworkers relate with them. And being that I saw my parents bicker, with them, but I in time I found out that's how they communicated.
That was their style.
That was their style of communicating. The voices just got louder and louder and louder and louder. Arthur, Sheila. And that's just what it was. But when they interacted with their friends, like, I never saw anything of disrespect. And it was I say this often, there's no shock no shock to me that when my dad passed, that there were, 200 plus people at his funeral, and every single person that came up to us to give, their regards and whatnot, they all said the same things. Like, oh, your dad was so honest. He was so nice. He always was helpful. He always went out of his way to help his community. Yeah. And it's not shocking that I can look at my brothers and myself and see how we are with our people, like our own communities. It's a direct correlation with what we saw our father do. And same with our mother. Like, our mom was the best. She just took care of us all the time, and always padded the moments between dad and us, because we did a lot of stupid shit.
The peacemaker.
And she always knew when it was a good time to ask dad for something, which was very helpful. Very helpful. So you had mentioned earlier that you feel, with all of the not so great things that you've had to experience in life and go through, that God, person, whoever you believe in, had blessed you with two wonderful kids. Not only that, but two people that have a wonderful communication with you.
Literally, if I could have built them piece by piece in my dreams, is what they've ended up being.
That's phenomenal. What I want to kind of like roundabout kind of say is, all of the experiences that we've gone through in life that have been difficult. I'll use examples of my own life: betrayal of friends, loss of loves, loss of many jobs. Let me tell you, I don't look at any of them as like the things that are bad.
I totally agree with you. I say, sorry, I don't want to.
Hey, no, go ahead.
I say all the time, when bad things happen, I always say thank you.
Yes.
Because it's like, thank you. Now, if you're smart, I don't want to say if you're smart, like, I'm going to say, if you're smart, you take those bad things that happen and you use them as a lesson, and you make the change.
Absolutely.
If you don't make the change, whether it be the pattern of your, if you grew up in not the best household and then you follow that pattern, like, I am a very big believer of you being able to make the change.
You are the ruler of your own destiny and your own reality. Use
those bad things as lessons and but you have to use it as a lesson and make the change.
Yes.
Or otherwise then it is a bad thing.
And it'll just repeat. It's just the constant repetition of the circle.
Absolutely.
What I've been doing lately is because things will always come, ebb and flow. That's life, up and down. That's always is. And as long as you know that when you're going up and you feel so amazing, you kind of have to be, okay, well, something else is going to come later. But at the same time, when you're in that darkness of the shit happening or something not working out, take solace in the fact that okay, well, the next thing is going up. So what I've implemented into my life lately is, when one of these things happen, and I get wrapped up in it sometimes and forget my
Sure,
practices.
and you should be allowed to.
100%.
Yeah.
I try to then think of those things that I believe are the greatest things that have happened to me or been given to me. So like for you, like your children, like you've
Yes.
been blessed with everything that is so far, that anytime something bad happens, I take that thought about how great that is, and I instantly put that into my thought process. So the worry or the negative thought that I have about whatever shit is happening currently to me, I kind of like, it's almost like I let it go and I replace that with hey, listen, in my life, I also have a lot of many good things that have happened and things are still happening that are good. And then I just, just an hour later, I'm just like, I'm not thinking of it anymore, which is quite interesting. So being a single parent at times got to be difficult.
Yes.
Right? Because you
Can't
don't
be in two places at one time. That's the hard part.
Is that the hardest thing to do with it?
Yeah.
When it comes to like having one or multiple kids being in two places at the same time, or just
being at work and not being able to be there. I mean, I've turned down jobs with, much higher pay so that I could be at home with my kids as much as possible on the days that I'm with them. But that it's twofold. So it's like sometimes I'm at work and there's something that needs to be taken care of. And, for the most part, my ex-husband is good like that. But I hate having to ask him for that. He's got, another person in his life so that he has help. I don't. I try my very, very hardest not to. My mom's here, so I can ask her for help as well. But, sometimes I feel bad. It's just me. And like, my Gavin, my son, has a basketball game, and Ava, my daughter, has, is trying, it's tough. It's tough sometimes in that sense. But that's really it, for me.
For you, yeah.
That's probably the only struggle of single parent. Of course, finances, it's hard doing it on your own. But that's fine. I figured it out. But that's trying to, if had like two of me, it would be helpful
easier, yeah.
every now and then.
How do you think because your children are young at age, but still kind of like the 15 is kind of getting to that point where we can really understand what's going on.
Totally. She's mature beyond her. Both of them get it.
And do you think that's because they've seen such a strong woman be a single parent?
I don't know. I mean, I have very open conversations with them. I've never taught baby talk. I've always, since they were little, taught to them like they're adults, within reason.
Right.
Very honest with them. Speak openly with them about everything. And sometimes when it's tough, I tell them like it's tough. Like, I'm sorry. Like I'm having a tough day, whether it be related to them or not. Just like, just give me like an hour to chill out. And they are so respectful. They're like, absolutely. And I think even on their own, I think they see things. And and this is also something I maybe feel a little bit bad about. I think, sometimes they see how tough it is for me to try to, handle everything. And they'll almost like not ask about things to do things because they don't want to
take
put
care
me
of
out.
things themselves because
like
they know that
or like they don't want to put me out of my. But like I hope that they don't do that a lot.
Yeah,
because I want them to do everything that they want to do.
So do you think that would be like the biggest challenge as a single parent?
For me, yes, because it's just they're good kids, so I don't really have to deal with too much else.
Right.
That's it. Yeah, I wish there was just two of me.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I mean, you never know what's going to happen in the future. That's for sure. I came from a family that, my mom and dad were together, death do them part. It was literally my dad died and they were like, I think 2 years shy of 50 years together. So no fault of theirs, but I was just shown that that's kind of like what's expected. Thank God, both my brothers are married for, I want to say, way more than 10 years apiece.
Okay.
I mean, it has to be because their kids are like the eldest one is 18, 17, 16, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm such a bad uncle. That's the one thing I regret is I have not been around as an uncle.
Do they
as I
live in
should
the
have
area?
been. No, everyone's in Canada.
Oh, okay.
So I've been traveling for 18 years,
Yeah.
For my job. So selfishly I did that. And I've said this on another episode. I really do regret being selfish in that way because I stole away from my nieces and nephews, or at least some of the ones that are more older about to go to college. I stole away from them the opportunity that they could have had to have such a great relationship with their uncle. I refer to TJ quite often in almost every episode. I admire his relationship with all his nieces and nephews.
I see that he's with them a lot. Yeah.
Oh my God, he's with them, or he calls them. We'll be driving around town doing errands, and he'll just call up Hendrix and be like, "Yo, kid, what's up?"
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm trying to build that relationship back with my nieces and nephews, but that's on me. That's what I have to do. But when you grow up seeing something, you think that's just the way it is. So I thank God that my brothers, obviously, I'm sure, go through tough shit with their wives, but they work on it, and they haven't had to deal with the separation. It has to be difficult. It's not what you set out to do.
Sure.
Right? You didn't plan on not having a partner to raise these kids, but it sounds like, I mean, damn, it sounds like you got really good kids.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. And that speaks volumes as to you, because it comes from both the parents. But if they're spending 50% or more of their time with you, you've molded them into these, humans that are able to function in society and not give you a whole lot of flack at the same time. In fact, it sounds like they kind of watch out for mom as well.
They do.
And that's amazing. That must make you feel wonderful as a parent.
I couldn't be more proud of them. I don't think it'd be possible.
The biggest takeaway I think I'm going to get from this conversation is the fact that you have to create those boundaries early on in the children's lives, so that as they grow up and become adolescents and then teenagers, you don't have to worry as much about following them around to do stuff. They already know what mom expects.
Just so you also know, for when you are ready, they know what they can get away with and what they can't. I mean, mine don't, but I've seen other kids that will push the limits.
Okay. Well, thank you once again for coming to the show. I appreciate it. It was a wonderful conversation. For everyone out there, thank you very much for coming back each and every week. We'll see you next Tuesday here at 2 p.m. on the Lyfe Choyces podcast. Much love, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen,
You are now about
The Journey, Lyfe Choyces podcast.